In this video, we're going to be getting into the top 5 Chains Promathia zones that I just didn't gel with. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad zones, I just didn't really want to go. Or yeah, they were kind of bad zones. If you're new here, this is Sun for Games, share my tips and passions for classics like Final Fantasy XI, as well as new games that I'm hoping share some of the things that made Final Fantasy XI so great. If that's the kind of stuff you're into, consider subscribing, and don't forget to click that bell to get notified when new videos go live. Now, I never shut up with how much I love the Final Fantasy XI Chains Promathia expansion, but with all of those amazing zones, there had to be a few that just didn't quite live up to the hype of the rest of the expansion. At the very least, they just didn't gel with me, so let's get right into it. Starting with the Grand Palace of Hugues, I don't know if it's French, Hugues, there's a Z and an X, Hugues, we're gonna go with Hugues. Look, I mean, it had a really cool art design, all the whites, the shimmering like translucency, everything was super bright. The enemies were really cool and unique, the 3 or 4 that existed in the entire zone. I mean, it was a really cool idea, but I don't remember any reason to be there. There was the few missions you had to go down there for Chains of Promathia. I can't remember if it led to any events. I think Limbus was far off on the other side of the zone. I don't know, it just kind of was boring. And it was this one big loop, this huge loop that somehow I still would constantly get lost in. I would always realize about halfway through that I'd suddenly turned around, didn't realize it, and ran in the opposite direction for an hour because everything looks exactly the same. The floating balls that would change all of a sudden, you'd be like, now I aggro by sight, and I'd be like, damn it, freaking bird creature thing. Look, it shouldn't be complicated. It really was just basically one path, but I got lost all the time, so I was staring at my map all the time. And then I would realize that I got aggro because I was looking at my map and not paying attention to where I was running. I just think if this zone had like cool branching areas, maybe a couple hidden rooms, or rooms in general that had maybe something to find, just unique, interesting things, objectives in the zone, notorious monsters, just nice lore items, quests that brought us down here for more than the more random thing. I wanted hidden secrets. I wanted rooms that were locked that I had to go get a key for to open because I never knew what was going to be behind the locked door. It was nothing. It was just this looping pain and frustration. I think I just described Temple of Uleguerand. Like I want Temple of Uleguerand under sea. I want that, but it just wasn't cool. I was never looking for anything. I was like, let's just get through this. I don't know, I guess I can't really ask for another zone again, but it was such a cool, Temple of Uleguerand was so neat the way that they did all these branching pathways. I felt like I was in a real building that like had gone decrepit and ancient beings used to live there, but now they were gone. And I don't know, Grand Palace of Hugues was like, whatever. Also, in my mind, I always pronounce this Hugues, but like that's not a real pronunciation. Leading us next to another zone that I liked in theory, but just hated being there, Soja. I mean, look, it's super creepy. It's super cool in theory, but like, what? I went here like what, twice? Ever? I don't know. It's terrifying and confusing in there. I mean, I'm definitely biased by my own personal experience, but it is a cool zone at a glance. But I just don't remember why you would go down there. I remember some people farming the dioramites, which are everywhere, but beyond that, like, what was the purpose? I never had any urge to go back after the missions that required me to be there sent me down. What is there? I really don't even remember. I feel like there was nothing down there. What is useful? There's nothing. There are 2 notorious monsters. 2. One drops the Uleguerand pendant, and I honestly, that guy looks like impossible to kill, so probably never tried for that. And the other guy drops the concealing cuffs. They suck. There was no reason to be down. It's tonberries. Everything that's interesting down here that drops interesting items is tonberries. Everybody hates fighting tonberries. It was such a cool idea, and they went with the lower Delkfutt tower structure again. Yeah, you're going down, but it's still the stupid tower. There's 12 maps. There's 12 maps. And it's impossible to navigate because every map level is totally different, which I know I just asked for uniqueness in each level, but it's just so hard. It's just this tower you're diving down with these impossibly annoying enemies. It's all tonberries, snolls, dioramites, goblins, I guess. I don't know. I just remember this being one of those zones where I'm like, oh yeah, I know that Soja is out there, it exists, but I never go there. It would have been really cool if there were like some amazing camps in here or something, or any reason to just come here more often besides like the 3 or 4 quests and the obviously needed Chains of Promathia mission quest line. I don't know. Enough bitching. Next. This one's going to be a little divisive. I think a lot of you are going to say, like, dude, you're wrong. This zone was really cool, because depending on your perspective and what you were doing in game, I bet this zone was amazing. Like, visually, aesthetically, I think it's really cool. Uleguerand Range. Definitely pronounced that one wrong, but we're just moving on. Look, this zone was awesome. The snow, the deep blizzard, like I was buried for months style snow, really capped out snow in Final Fantasy XI. Zarkabar was okay. It had snowy areas. Visudine Glacier was kind of a letdown. It really was just like a harsh landscape with like snow-blown, I don't know, it was like flurries. Uleguerand Range was that deep, deep snow, and it was awesome looking. All the enemies were really cool. They truly seemed like Vanadil mobs that would live in a snowy landscape. Even the like rabbits were like white versions of the rabbits. It was awesome, but I hated it. What is the one thing you think of when you think of Uleguerand Range? I think of Snolls and the Snoll fight, and doing the Snoll fight for CMP and hating it and wanting to just die. I just think of frustration. There's the drop downs where you'll immediately die. If you want to get up to the top, you've got to go the one way in this unique, like, impossible to climb mountain. And then there's the huge slope that you slide down. And I think there were objectives you could like try to get to certain spots that you land, and it would open up some other areas, but you'd always miss them. I don't even know if that's true. I just only ever went here like twice. Before Abyssia happened and kind of remade the zone in Abyssia form, I really didn't spend much time here. It was incredibly intense as a zone. It's easy to get yourself killed here. Now, I always think that the perfect kind of zone is one that starts out with some lower level enemies, so that you as a player can kind of explore and experience it solo by yourself, you know, as a 60, 70, 75 job, and sort of get a feel for the place, how to navigate it, what kind of enemies are there, what do you have to deal with, are there weird keys you gotta work on, like that kind of stuff. I love doing that by myself and getting a feel for the zone, even if I don't really realize I'm doing that. And then you come back later with a group of friends and you tackle all of the hard stuff deeper in. I feel like Uleguerand Range is like, it hits you with that stuff right away. Now, as I'm looking at the enemy levels, it does seem like when you first enter the zone, there are some like level high 50s stuff and then some 60s, but like as a 75, that's still pretty tough. Yeah, it's not that bad, and I guess it's exactly what I'm asking for. But I feel like if you had a group of like 4 or 5 friends, and you were always running around with that same group, like I had like 2 or 3 solid players that I would play with all the time. So we didn't have a huge group, and if one person's not on, it might be a little bit tougher, but we didn't have a reason to go out here. I'm looking at the notorious monster list, and yeah, it's huge, and that's the kind of stuff that I love. But like, this stuff is all it's all in the mid to high 70s. That's like full group, if not alliance level, like notorious monster tackling, which is amazing. And it sounds like an amazing zone. I'm sure it was a ton of fun. And if you fought like high level worms, Jormungand was here, but I never got into the H&M worm scene. That was just something that I never really got to take on. So I didn't go after that stuff. Like, this zone, I wanted to like so bad, because style wise, everything about it looks so cool, but it was just too hard for me, as the way that I approached Final Fantasy XI and the kind of stuff that we as a friend group tackled. We just were never out here. There was no reason for us to come back here. So I just kind of feel like it was a missed opportunity, but I think that's going to be divisive, because I think a lot of people that came out here in groups more often had a lot to do and like may have loved the zone. I don't know. I had nothing going on. I was out here like twice ever. Let me know in the comments, did you love this zone? And if so, what were you doing here? What drove you out here? What were you hunting? There's some level 82 stuff with some crazy demons. Dropping some dark spirit packs. Were you farming dark spirit packs from a level 83 demon? I don't know, maybe. I know it's a little biased of me to say. I just kind of like went through this whole rant about how I love zones to ease you in with like a single player experience. I'm the one always saying that what made Final Fantasy XI great was its group content, the way that it drove players together, and this zone is trying to drive players together by saying, I am too hard for a standard player to go alone. If you want to do anything in the zone, you have to be in a group, and I think that's cool. It just didn't work on me. I was like, I'm not gonna go. I'm never gonna go. But enough of crapping on an actually really cool zone. Let's get to one that I think a lot more people are gonna agree with me sucks. Adawak Chasm. This zone is terrible. Let's talk about aesthetics. The theme. Deserts are cool. Eastern and Western Altepa Desert, amazing. Rolling sand dunes, beautiful for the PS2 era. I still don't know how they captured its essence so perfectly. Adawak Chasm is rock. It's dirty rock with wind blowing the dirt around. It is awful. There's actually a really cool and beautiful moment right in the beginning where you zone in and you're in the chasm. You're kind of like looking up and down as you kind of go through the side of the chasm with the worms that are right there. Awesome part of the zone. Then you escape that and get to the actual zone and you're like, wow, that sucks, because that was the cool part and now I'm in the worst hell imaginable. Because you can't get to any part of the zone from any other part. It's all cut off by these walls, and inside the walls there's the black smoke invisible wall that you can't see until you're right upon it, unless it's the one that actually lets you pass, which looks a little different, but you can't tell till you get up close. It was just awful. You couldn't get anywhere. And as you're walking around trying to navigate all these barriers and walls preventing you from getting to go where you're trying to go, and the invisible barriers that are also preventing you, but only if they want to, because sometimes they open up, there's antlions emerging out of the ground just waiting to murder you. Now I think there is like an NM version that's immediately like, plague, death, sleep, gravity, you're dead. But like most of them still would just pop out, immediately do some damage to you and rock you. Look, I was a summoner a lot. Yeah, I probably had Carbuncle out because I wasn't stupid, and like any summoner worth his salt probably is running around with Carbuncle because he can save your ass. But sometimes sometimes I forgot or something, or we just fought something and I released different, and then I'm running 2 feet away and it's like, summoner, and would like destroy me in 2 seconds. I just hated those guys. Cool enemies once they're out, but they're giant ticks, and that's terrifying. It's a terrifying enemy. And the other kind of stuff like that lives in this zone, what are they called? Courses? The like Lich King death machines that I literally think can doom you. Now, that isn't to say there's tons of stuff going on in the zone. There's tons of content to do, tons of notorious monsters, tons of reasons to be here. And that's what made it so frustrating. I was here all the time. And then there's so many things that dropped things I wanted, like the Harpy, an amazing dagger, but it always dropped from stuff that was like a little too hard for me to solo reliably. So we'd get like 2 friends out there, both be pissed off at the zone we're in, not get drops. And I've babbled about the reasons that the zone is awful and annoying, and it's ugly and just full of death and destruction. But I haven't even mentioned the best part. There's a mountain in the center that you have to climb. I'm pretty sure it's for a mission, but I swear I have to climb it like multiple times. I don't know why we went back. And it's this rotating death of like you're trying to climb up these little paths and then drop down in the right place, but there's no obvious direction. And if you go the wrong way, you fall off the whole mountain. You got to start again. And sometimes if you fall off in the wrong place, you have to loop back around the whole walls that prevented you from getting to that spot and to begin with. It was miserable. It's awful. Sometimes you finish an objective and you're just like, yes, that was harder than I expected and a little unusual in its delivery, but I am proud of myself. Final Fantasy XI, the Chains of Promathia era, was pushing the boundaries of storytelling in MMOs and what that could mean and what it meant. On the PS2, what is now considered to be ancient hardware, your phone is more powerful. They introduced the dumbest thing ever with this mountain that you could not climb unless you had invisible instincts of how to climb. I hated that stupid mountain. There was no reason for it. It belittles the expansion. Yeah, I'm messing around. But seriously, I finished it. I felt relief that it was over. I didn't feel accomplishment. I felt like, thank you. I'm glad. And sometimes you get aggro. People would get aggro off the top of the mountain. I feel like, I forget how that happened. But enough about Adawak Chasm, as much as it sucked. Let's get to number 5. And a lot of you are going to say, why didn't you close with Adawak Chasm, the obvious winner of worst zone in Chains of Promathia? I wanted to end on a slight higher note than utter frustration. But number 5, Tavnazian Safehold. And a lot of you are going like, what the hell? Especially if you kept up with my videos. The top 5 best zones of Chains of Promathia. Tavnazian Safehold was actually one of my runner-ups for best zones thematically. I actually really like aesthetically what's going on in that zone, but as I really started to think about it, so much about it just pisses me off. I always wanted it to be true Tavnazian. The city that we see in the opening cutscene of Final Fantasy XI, where you can finally see from, I think it's Lufaise Meadows, I don't think it's Misery Coast, but I always get it mixed up. It's beautiful. I always wanted to go there, even if it was in ruins. That would have been really cool, actually. But no, it was a dirt hole in the ground where all the survivors had fled to, which was already kind of depressing. So every time you're in Tavnazian, you're like, well, this is kind of depressing. It was a beautiful zone for what it was, the hole in the ground. That whole central room with the light filtering down is really gorgeous, but it was also like kind of confusing navigation-wise. Even now in 2019, whenever I go back, I always end up going up to the wrong floor or to the wrong side that I think is gonna have what I need. Like if I'm going for the auction house, I end up at the Moogles. If I'm going for just like that random NPC that's gonna sell me some stuff, I end up at the auction. I'm just always in the wrong place, and I've got to do everything 3 times to finally get where I'm going. It was just structurally kind of bizarre. I also just always wish that, you know, as the Chains of Promathia city, I mean, with Uleguerand, we got Uleguerand Whitegate. Like, this was the city of Chains of Promathia, and it just never really turned into the hub that I kind of hoped it would be. And that's for a lot of reasons. I mean, it couldn't beat Juno out in that time. Juno had so many more convenience factors. But, like, it just never turned into more. They never made Tavnazian the Safehold, like, more important. I was there a lot when I was doing the Chains of Promathia missions, and if I was ever doing, like, a lot of stuff in the Fumbling aqueducts, which, by the way, are in the basement of Tavnazian Safehold. That's kind of bizarre. It would be kind of cool if Juno's basement... I guess Juno's basement is Quiffin. What am I saying? You pop right down to Quiffin Island. I was just always kind of there, like, if I had other stuff going on, but I never stayed. I would have loved to have had another cool hub for the expansion, and I don't feel like the Safehold really ever was that. And again, it was never the real Tavnazian, so it was this tragic, beautiful pit where people lived for 20 years, I guess. And that's not bad in its own right from like a storytelling perspective, but I always wished it was the opening, and then at the end you're like, no, but here's the real city. Like, I don't know, it was just, come on, Sea Lions Den was a huge letdown. It was basically the coolest name ever for a zone, and then you got in there and you're like, oh, it's just a dock, and I can't even get to the dock. I have to, there's a gate in the way, and all I can do is click on the gate. And it'll do nothing for 90% of my experience through this expansion. At the end, it's like my entrance to sea. But it drove me nuts. But I want to hear your thoughts in the comments, especially that last one. Is that just ridiculous? I mean, honestly, I do love most of the zones in Chains of Promathia. My biggest frustrations as I thought through it were all the amazing zones that I felt like I personally had no reason to go to, which I think is a missed opportunity. Any Final Fantasy XI zone that's like a true sizable zone is a chance for more of the world to be visited at any point in time. It's actually one thing that drives me nuts about 2019 Final Fantasy XI, is that all the partying happens in these dark, dingy tunnels with the beauty of Vana'diel out there to explore, and there's no reason to go for any kind of capacity point parties. But that's neither here nor there. If these zones had been expanded upon like a little bit, given more reason for a lot of players to go there, it would have been amazing. But I don't know. I digress. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Did I miss zones? Are there zones that you thought were worse than the 5 that I included here? Or did I not berate these zones far enough? As always, keep on the lookout for more videos like this in the rest of the series. And I'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace. Voice kind of cracked in the last piece. I made it right to the end. It was peace. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in more videos like this, think about subscribing. And if you already have, don't forget to click that little bell next to the sub button to get notified when new videos go live. Hit me up in the comments with your thoughts on this video, or come hang out and chat with me on Twitch every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And definitely look me up on Twitter or Instagram and Hunt for Games to keep up with what else I've got going on. See ya!